All right, so hopefully you tried this one. Let's go ahead and do it together just to make sure you know what you're doing. All right, so we're going to distribute that negative I. So negative I times 3. So remember there's a 1 here. So it's negative 1 times 3 times 3. So it's going to be negative 3I. And then we're going to take that negative 1I times 2I. So negative 1I times 2I is going to be a negative 2I squared because we have an I here and an I here. So remember, this is so important. Anytime you have an I squared, this whole thing becomes a negative 1. And so when we have negative 3I minus 2 times negative 1, we're going to have negative 2 times a negative 1 is going to be actually a positive 2. And this is not a big deal. You could leave it like that, but technically you should always have the real part first, so the real number, and then the imaginary number. So we should technically have this flipped. So it should be 2 minus 3I. That way the real number is first, and then the imaginary number is second. All right, so now we're going to kick it up a notch. Remember from Algebra 1, multiplying binomials. Remember, a binomial has two terms. So we have 2 terms times 2 terms. And so what I like to do is I like to show you using the box method. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that first binomial. You can either write it on the side or you can write it on the top. It does not matter. I'm just going to put it on the side. So make sure you put them on the same side. So I'm going to put 2x here, and then I'm going to put plus 6 here. And then over on this one, we're going to put the 5x on top and the minus 1. So just whatever. If it's in the same parentheses, it better be on the same side. But you could switch those if you wanted. And then just like if we were finding the area, to find the area, you do length times width. So we would multiply these things together. So 2x and 5x is 10x squared. There's an x here and an x here. It's going to be an x squared. Here we have 2x times negative 1. It's going to be a negative 2x. And then we're going to have 5x times 6 is a positive 30x. 6 times negative 1 is going to be a negative 6. And not always, but for the most part, the diagonals here are going to be like terms. So you're going to actually take those things and you're going to add them together because they're like terms. So we're going to take the 10x squared minus 2x plus 30x minus 6. And those two in the middle are your like terms. So we're going to add them together. And we get 10x squared. Don't ask me why that keeps happening to me. I don't know. Probably because I'm writing on there too hard. So we're going to have 10x squared. And 30 minus 2 is 28x minus 6. This is this multiplied. So try this one yourself. Make sure you know what you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and move on for time purposes. And we're going to now go over that same logic to complex numbers. So we're going to do that exact same thing. We're going to take a box. And in that first parentheses, we're just going to write it here, 3 minus 5i. And then in this one, we're going to put on the top 9 plus 2i. And we're going to go ahead and multiply the length times the width to fill in the box. So 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 2i is going to be a positive 6i. 9 times negative 5i is going to be a negative 45i. And then negative 5i times 2i is going to be a negative 10i squared. And remember, this is so important to remember. I squared equals negative 1. So what's going to happen is it's going to change this to a negative 1. And remember, this was negative 10. So what ends up happening is in this box, it's going to cause this whole thing to actually be a positive 10. And then, nifty thing is, this diagonal can be combined with this one. And this diagonal can be combined with this one, because these are going to be like terms and these are going to be like terms. So I'm just going to write it out just to make sure we get it. So I'm going to put 27 plus 6i minus 45i plus, remember this became positive 10. All right, so we are going to have the like terms of the i's together, and we're going to have our like terms of the numbers together. And I know that yellow is really hard to see. All right, so 27 plus 10 is going to be 37. Oops, I don't like that. 37. And remember, we always like to write the real part first, so that's why I added those first. And then 6i minus 45i is going to be a negative 39i. Alrighty, so I'm going to do one more example, and then I want you guys to try it yourself. So remember, same parentheses goes in the same side. This time I'm going to put on the top for no reason other than to show you that you can. And then this one can go on the side if you want. Just make sure same parentheses goes on the same side. Now we're going to multiply. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2i is 6i. 7i times 1 is positive 7i. Sorry, I forgot the positive here. 7i times 2i is going to be 14i squared. And remember, we know anytime we have an I squared, that changes the sign. So this is actually going to be negative 14, because 14 times negative 1 is negative 14. Alrighty, so we're going to do 3 plus 6i plus 7i minus 14, and we are going to combine our like terms. Always do the real part. So 3 and negative 14 is real, so that's going to be negative 11. And then we do our imaginary part. 6i and 7i is going to be positive 13i. And that is our answer. So try that one and that one yourself. Make sure you know what you're doing. It gives you a nice little practice. And then go to Delta Math. And the title of that notes is Multiplying Complex Numbers on Delta Math. So you can get extra practice. And you're going to make sure you upload a picture into your digital notebook. Thanks for watching.